Hello and welcome to Chapter 10 of our Python 3 Basics video series. In this chapter we're going to be talking about functions. The idea of a function is to assign a set of code and possibly some variables to that code known as parameters to a single bit of text. So if you remember variables, we saved data to variables. Usually this was a singular bit of data, but we could also save operations like this equals x, we can say x equals y divided by z, for example. A function is really just a larger example of that, where we save a bit of code to a singular, word. So just like variables will save a lot of time, if you find yourself, let's say, generating, let's say, a 15 moving average. So to begin a function, or begin to define a function, we do def, which is short for define. And what this does is just notifies Python of the impending function definition. After that, you add a space, and then you give the name that you want to call your function. It's somewhat important to choose a unique name, and also one that's not going to conflict with any other functions that you might be using. So for example, you wouldn't want to name a function print, because print is already a built-in function to Python, so it would be conflicting. So we'll call this example, and then after you've given the name of your function, then you can use these braces here and put in any function parameters. For now we're going to leave those empty, but we will be building on parameters shortly. Then, to finish off the function definition, use a colon, like with our for loop, while loops, if statements, all of that. You hit enter and it's automatically indented for you. Now, this is where you type all of your code. So a function is just a group of code. So you can kind of think of any sort of Python script. You could take that code and then you could just indent it over, put it in a function, and it would work just the same as it always has, only you could call it with a function. So for now, I'm just going to put pass here. But just to show you guys an example, we could say, x equals 1, y equals 3, and then print x plus y. Okay, so we can save and run this. And the output here is 4, right? So we defined a couple variables and we print them out. And then for this function, we just haven't done anything yet, right? But what we could do is we could take all of this information, we can cut it out, and then instead of pass, we can paste this information. Now, when you paste something, say you paste it like this and you want it all over, you could go through and tab and tab and tab, but that might get kind of tedious. Instead, what you can do is you can highlight everything and just hit the tab key, and that will move over everything that you've highlighted. So now, this example code that we've just written is encased in this example function. So now let's say, we want to run the example function. Well, we can come down here and we can do example, empty parameters, and then we can save and run that again, and we get 4. It's the same exact thing, but say example was doing something like, say, generating a moving average, a standard deviation, something like that. Instead of, even though both of those things can be done with an import now, say you had a function that does, something, say you've built some sort of spell checker and it just spell checks something. And so instead of writing that code every time to spell check data, you would just run the function itself. That way you don't have to keep writing that code over and over and over. So that's it for a function. Now a function can also contain everything that we've covered up to this point. So we could say if x is less than y, for example, print x y is less than. So we have an if statement here, and you can see 1 is less than 3, and so on. So you can put everything within it. Again, it's just you can put all kinds of code under a function. It's just the function is where that code is kept. And then we can reference that by just calling the function below or in your script. As time goes on, generally what you'll see people do is they make a bunch of functions. They define all of their functions and global variables at the top of the script. And then near the end, they have a main function, right? And so they do define main, and then they run all of the functions and code that they want to run. And this is what would be known as the main loop, basically, to the script. So that's basically it for the basics of a function. In the next video, we're going to be talking about function parameters, so stay tuned for Chapter 11. Thank you for watching.